Now we are just 5 hours away from the end of the immigration policy known as Title 42. It's our top story right here on the 4. I'm Heather Myers.
I'm Carlo Chiquetta. We have team coverage of the growing crisis at the border as crowds of migrants gather hoping to seek asylum. CBS 8's Richard Allen is live in Tijuana with the confusion and frustration over the policies. Shannon Handy has more on the wait along the wall, but we start out with Jesse Pagan. Jesse?
Yeah, Carlo, Heather, the moment has come, right? Here we are just a few hours away from the end of Title 42, and we are here at the wall where a lot of migrants are waiting, hoping for their chance. If you take a look, you can see a lot of them are just waiting right by the wall, some covered under tarps, some under trash bags, some with cardboard trying to take some shade and stay warm. Just a few minutes ago, we did some people, just baking in the heat. We did see a teenage girl who did faint. A crowd around her trying to help her, pour some water over her, and Border Patrol officers over here calling for an ambulance to get out here. That's the reality a lot of these people are facing right now as they wait for their chance and their hopes of claiming asylum. Of course, our coverage throughout the entire week, we've been out here showing you all kinds of stories of people, each one in the same situation now, but of course with their own path and their own situation of how they got here and their own reasons. Shannon Handy, one of our reporters, has been out here for several days. Today, she's been talking with folks at the border. Some have been waiting for days, some had just getting here, and they've been waiting for just a couple hours.
Yeah, Jesse, I've come out here to the same area outside the border wall for several days in a row now, and what I keep saying is that every day I come here, the desperation is growing. You're seeing more women, more children. You're hearing babies cry. People are tired. They're frustrated. You can see some people behind me. They have gathered at the wall to get things like water and food that's being passed out. You know, for a lot of these people, they showed up to the border thinking they would show up and begin their asylum claim process right away, but that's not the case. And even just hours before Title 42 expires, there's still no clarity as to what will happen. For several days now, we've watched as this group of migrants behind a small section of the border wall has grown from just dozens last week to now hundreds.
Es muy difícil dormir aquí, estar mucho frío.
This woman is from Ecuador. She described the conditions as difficult, saying it gets cold here at night. Like so many here, she and her 1-year-old daughter Daniela have been sleeping on the ground for days. They're covered in dirt and have no extra clothes to change into.
No tengo ni ropa para cambiarle. No tengo nada.
She and others expected to arrive at the border and immediately be transported to start her asylum claim. Instead, the process has been difficult and confusing. Many have tried using an online app to get an appointment but can't get through. And while we've seen Border Patrol transport some groups, it's unclear who gets chosen first and where they're taken to. In the meantime, as they wait, people on the other side of the fence are trying to comfort them however they can. Since this crisis began, more and more volunteers have shown up to the border to help. And it's not just churches or humanitarian groups, it's regular people like this couple from Paradise Hills who is making lunch for hundreds.
To be warm in my house and for them to be cold out here, it really breaks my heart. I tear up. It's really sad.
Other volunteers have brought clothes, water, and toiletries. They're also charging phones. It's a common request as these migrants seek some type of communication with the outside world, not knowing how much longer they'll be here, even as Title 42 expires.
The hardest part is just looking at them, waiting here in the hot sun for something to happen, which may or may not happen.
And back out here live, I talked in that story about the volunteer efforts. Just a few minutes ago, a woman got out of her car and started unloading all of these blankets. We asked her who she was, where she was from. She was just a woman from Rancho Bernardo who said she saw the need on TV and came here, and we're seeing a lot of that. Here's juice boxes. Today earlier, someone was asking me for a toothbrush and toothpaste, and we were able to find that in one of these boxes and give it to the migrant. Now, I did speak on the phone with a Border Patrol official just about 45 minutes ago, and I asked him, I said, what is the plan for this group of migrants? I know they're scattered throughout the border, but what about transporting people. They do have 8 facilities in the San Diego region, and asked, are those facilities at capacity? He said he could not tell me, and he could not tell me the plan beyond that. So a lot of confusion still to come, a lot of chaos. And Jesse, even we heard President Biden say the other day that this situation will be chaotic for quite some time.
Shannon, chaotic seems to be part of the identity of the situation here, as you've seen. But of course, as you just showed us, we do have people trying to do their best they can from their humanitarian, their charity aspect to help these folks out. Shannon Handy continuing our coverage and kicking it off for us this afternoon here along the border. Shannon, thank you. Now, Shannon did talk about the chaotic nature of this and the here and there nature of this. And of course, the people waiting for asylum are the first ones to encounter all of that. We have been reporting about the process of going through all of this. As you see, people are sitting here, but they're not just sitting. Many are on their phones trying to go through the legal process through the CBP app. You can see some of them are asking that people charge our phones so we can communicate and try to go through the process and do the things that we need to do. Get on this app, the CBP One app that we've heard quite a lot about. However, even for those folks, it has not been an easy process. We have been talking about the issues that have been there, and also for folks who are waiting in Tijuana or in Mexico and other parts of the country, trying to go through that process as it's been laid out the legal way. CBS 8's Richard Allen has been in Tijuana reporting on this aspect of the story for days now. Richard is there now, continuing that part of the coverage. As some people, Richard, they wait days to try to get through an appointment. Some do and some don't, and there's really no way to figure out who will be lucky enough to get that appointment. Richard?
And Jesse, that's right. So many of the migrants here in Tijuana who we have been speaking with over the past few days and weeks, they tell us that after making the dangerous journey here, some of them have been attacked, some of them robbed of all the money they had. Now they found their way to a shelter here in Tijuana. They just want to be able to try to enter the United States legally. But at this point, they say they are increasingly unclear exactly what that legal process means.
Sí, hay mucha confusión.
Araceli Funk journeyed here to Tijuana from her home country of Guatemala with her partner and their little girl 3 months ago to escape the homophobia and discrimination they faced there.
Temo por mi vida. Por eso vengo a pedir asilo.
Fearing for her life back home, she hopes to claim asylum in the United States. She says it was a dangerous journey just to get here to this shelter. Movimiento Juventud 2000 robbed of all of her money by criminals during the trip. And while she feels safe here in the shelter for the time being, trying to navigate the process to request asylum
Es frustrante.
has been exceedingly frustrating, she tells us, especially when trying to use the CBP One app, now required in most cases to book an appointment to begin the process for asylum.
Cada día, casi a cada momento estamos entrando a la aplicación.
She tries every day, nearly all the time, to apply, so far with no luck. Meanwhile, at another migrant shelter just around the corner,
Que me confirmen nada más para poder entrar con el asilo.
good news for Efraín Martinez Reyes from El Salvador, who just learned he passed the first step and is now waiting for an appointment with immigration officials in the next 2 weeks.
Pero por lo menos ya me pusieron un tiempo al cual yo tengo que esperarme.
Hopeful now that he at least has made some progress in trying to cross the border legally. He says criminal gangs back home attacked him with a machete and threatened the lives of his entire family.
Tenemos personas de Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala.
Yesenia Ardon is the shelter coordinator here, where they have migrants staying from all over the world. And while there is technically room for 150 people, they now have 180.
Ya no hay capacidad ahorita, tenemos saturado el lugar.
She says there's not only no more space here, but no room currently at any of the migrant shelters in Tijuana. In the meantime, more migrants continue to arrive as nonprofit migrant rights groups like Al Otro Lado try to help provide them with proper guidance.
But essentially, the government has provided no information to the migrant community, and what we're seeing is mass confusion.
And that was Nicole Ramos from that nonprofit Al Otro Lado. That's one of many nonprofits here in Tijuana. They are working to provide legal guidance to the thousands of migrants here who are desperate to seek asylum, especially, she says, in the face of the misinformation a lot of these migrants are now receiving. Jesse?
Yeah, Richard, misinformation is also a big part of all of this happening here. We've reported on that before, but how prevalent have you found out that is?
Well, these migrant rights groups we're talking with, they say it is extremely prevalent. It's especially being used by human smugglers who are using misinformation to prey on these desperate migrants, and a lot of times that has dangerous, even deadly consequences. Now, Nicole Ramos from El Otro Lado, she fears that these new restrictions that the U.S. is imposing on trying to get asylum, such as the CBP One app, also this new rule that's being finalized requiring migrants to first prove that they have sought asylum in a third country, such as Mexico, before being able to apply for asylum in the United States. She worries that these new restrictions will frustrate some of these migrants so much, making them so desperate that they will resort to human smugglers to try to get across the border. And of course, that can have some very dangerous consequences. In fact, we spoke earlier with Customs and Border Protection. They tell us that in the weeks and months leading up to the end of Title 42, they've actually seen an increase in human smuggling attempts. Jesse?
Changing information, misinformation on top of that, all on a layer on top of quite a dangerous situation. Richard Allen, live for us from Tijuana, Mexico. Richard, thank you. Heather, Carlo, as we've been talking about for days, the situation out here continues to change. More people continue to show up here at the border. Some, again, here for days waiting. Some just getting here, whether yesterday or even today. Customs and Border Patrol officers are out here. Homeland Security officials are out here as well, along with charity groups, churches, and just people trying to help out. You can see there are kids, there are adults, people of all ages here, waiting to see what happens with the end of Title 42. I talked to two young women earlier this afternoon as soon as I got here. They're from Colombia. They're friends. They barely knew each other in Colombia, and they made the trek going from Colombia through several countries in South America and then ultimately ending up here at the border of Tijuana. You're going to hear more from them later on in this evening of what they did, what they left behind, and their hopes for all of this. Heather, Carlo?
Yeah, just to get a better vantage point of exactly where you are along the border, have you seen Border Patrol come by since you've been there? I know when we were checking in with Arnetta Ronpour around the noon hour, all throughout the morning she had been reporting right up against the fence and chatting with people on the other side of the fence. They asked her to move back from the fence. Have you received those same types of rules or restrictions? What have agents been telling you?
I have not gotten any of that, Heather. We do see CBP out here. Again, we have seen Homeland Security out here talking with folks and kind of monitoring the area. There are several people, whether again on their own or with charities or churches or humanitarian efforts, who are right up on the border. There are journalists right up on the border. The shot that you're looking at right now is from one of our photographers who's shooting through the towers, the slats, the spaces in the border, trying to give you this shot right here. So we are able to get up close. We are able to talk with people on the other side of the border. Again, they're right up against it, and we are being allowed up to this point right now to get close to the border to bring you all of this. Heather, Carlo?
Jesse, just quickly to recap, as of right now, we're just a few hours from Title 42 ending. We still do not have a clear picture of how things will change there at the port of entry.
That's very correct, Carlo. Yes, we have heard, obviously, from the Biden administration's plan to impose some new restrictions once Title 8 comes back into play, and either impose some of the restrictions or the stricter regulations within Title 8 or some new ones. But really, we are at a point of wait and see to see what happens come 8:59 p.m. tonight.
All right, Jesse Pagan reporting live from the border. Jesse, we will check in with you a little bit later during this hour. Right now, though, we do want to give you a live look up above from Chopper 8. As you can see here, we are really kind of pulled out on this shot, so a little hard to get our bearings of exactly where they've grabbed this shot from. But again, Chopper 8 up and over the scene of the border crisis.
What we can see, we've been out there all week. We've seen the crowds growing incrementally during this week. Today looks like a big change from yesterday. Like there's double almost the crowd from what we saw yesterday that it was sitting waiting for this. Maybe this is because they're looking at we're that much closer to Title 42 ending. Hard to know exactly what is motivating that move right now, but those crowds definitely are growing as we get closer to that deadline.